Hey 242, Jeff here. Glad you're back. Welcome to the last week of the month of, you guessed it, October. So glad you're here. Hey, don't forget, November 1st is our next gathering together. We're going to be all together in the student chapel. There's going to be pancakes. So we're doing breakfast for the meal at 6:30. So make sure you get here early for the meal because we're going to kick right in at 7 o'clock and get things going for 242 gathering. So make sure you're here for that. That's coming up November 1st. Don't want you to miss it. Pastor Gary going to be joining us as we start a new series called True. And we'll be talking about a couple different things that really help us understand what is true. So be here for that. Next Thursday, November 1st. Who knows when you're actually watching this, so maybe it's not the next Thursday, because anyway, you get what I'm saying. Hey, as we wrap up this last one, thanks so much to Robert Neuenschwander last week, giving us some insights on how to really navigate this conversation in the midst of some cynicism and how we do that in the way that we do this. So I want to talk to you tonight, just really quick, about this idea of the transformational way and how this works. So we've been talking about what it looks like to live the way that Jesus lived. And so I want to give you an illustration. I usually, not every morning, but a lot of mornings, I'll get a two sausage McMuffins and a Diet Coke. And that's not every morning, but that's quite a few mornings. That's just how it goes. And so what I'll do is when I get to the office, I'll put the Diet Coke on the napkins they give me for the sausage McMuffins, and I'll put them on my office. And generally what happens is when I put the Diet Coke on there, because the Diet Coke has ice in it, at least a little bit, just a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. When you get the ice on there and it starts to set on the napkin starts to absorb it, right? The napkin starts to take in the condensation, and it kind of becomes a little wet. Some might use the word moist. I don't know why they would. But anyway, so what happens is it starts to get that way. And I wonder if this is how we should be coming across to the world. Today's going to be really brief, but I want you to look at 1 Peter, right? This is where Peter, who was with Jesus, starts talking about how we interact with the rest of the world. How do we interact with the world around us? And he says this in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 11 and 12. Beloved, I urge you as sojourners and exiles to abstain from the passions of the flesh, which wage war against your soul. And your conduct among the Gentiles, keep your conduct among the Gentiles honorable, so that they speak against you, when they speak against you as evildoers, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day of visitation, or when he comes. So what I think is so interesting about this, I'm just going to give you two observations and then an action step. Here's the first one. When you live a certain way in life, you see more of life. And what I mean by that first passage, that first verse in chapter 11, verse 11, they're saying abstain from the things of the flesh, abstain from the things of the world, right? And when you do that, you're going to wage war against those things that wage war against you. Why are they waging war against you? Because they're trying to separate you from the life that God has for you. But the reality is that when we fight temptation, we find the opportunity to have life in truth. When we fight temptation, we find the opportunity to live life in the way that Jesus calls us to. Now, what can be really easy is to think that I'm saying this is a moralistic thing. That when you do these things, that God loves you more. God loves you the way you are right now. But there are certain things he sets in place, certain things he tells us to do so that we can have life and life to the full, the life that he intends for us. So the second part is in verse 12. Keep your conduct among the Gentiles honorable. Now this suggests a couple things. One, it suggests that we will be in proximation with those people. We'll be close to people who are not followers of Jesus. We'll be close to people who don't believe the same things, don't understand the same things, don't have the same worldview as us. And I think about you and the environments you find yourself in, whether it's your job or maybe you're in college and you're going to school, or maybe it's at home, wherever it may be, where you find yourself around people who don't think the same thing as you, who don't believe the same thing as you, who don't look at life the same way that you do. See, oftentimes we're not around necessarily evildoers. We're not around people who are doing a bunch of evil. Nobody sets out necessarily in their life to do a bunch of evil. But what happens is we get around people who maybe don't know what they could have in the life that Christ offers us. They don't know what life with Christ might look like. And what's so interesting about that is the passage doesn't suggest to us that this is going to happen because we're declaring to the world all the time. We're spouting it off like guys in the street corner. We're not yelling it from the corner. It's that you're living your life in such a way that it causes people to think certain things. You're living your life in such a way in proximity to people who don't understand why you're living the way you're living, and it causes them to ask questions. It causes them to be interested. It causes them to even make some judgments, albeit false judgments, but make judgments about the way that you're living. So the question becomes this: Are you in proximity to people who are different than you? Are you in proximity to people who are around you, who need to be a part of the things that you're wrestling through when it comes to life? Are you around people who don't know Jesus? The answer is probably yes. The second question is are you living a consistent life? At the beginning of this whole series, we've been talking about spiritual consistency and how does that align with the way that we live? So are you living that consistent life? Are we living that consistent life that causes people to go, well, why do you live that way? Why do you make those decisions that way? Why do you do the things that you do? See, when we live into the life that Christ has intended for us, we reveal Christ to those around us. When we live into the life that Christ has for us, the life that He intends for us, the hard decisions, the wise decisions, the decisions that we make that aren't like the world, the actions that we do that aren't like the world, the way that we interact with people unlike the world, the way that we see people who are different than us in the image of God, because that's what they are, different than the world. Do those things do something? The answer is yes. Peter says it gives you the opportunity to reveal Jesus to the people around you. So the question is this. Here's the action step. What in your life is inconsistent with the life that you intend to live? What in your life is inconsistent with the life that Christ intends for you to live? Now, obviously, we're going to slip up. This isn't a moralistic conversation. This isn't a do the right thing just to do the right thing conversation. This is your life consistent? And the question is will that consistent life, will living that consistent life put you in a position that you can reveal Jesus to the people around you? Peter suggests that it is. Peter suggests that when you live that consistent life, when you follow after Jesus in your own private life, that your public consistent life with Christ will allow people around you to see that there's something different about you. And so the question is your life consistent? And in what areas is it inconsistent? And how can you make steps to make it more consistent? Listen, we're praying for you. Thanks for joining us today. In your small groups, we'd love you just to answer those two questions. Really simple, difficult, but simple questions. And then we'll see you at Steel Farms on October 27th. And if you're there at 7 o'clock, we will be there because we want to see you there and hang out. And then we'll see you on November 1st. I hope you have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.